Hello everyone, this is Timothy Mark with Alexandria.
How's everybody doing today?
And we are World Paranormal Research Society. The website is worldparanormalresearchsociety.org. The Gmail is World Paranormal Research Society at gmail.com. The YouTube channel is World Paranormal Research Society. We got a lot of awesome videos on there. We got podcasts on there, but we also have live action videos on there. So you can check it out.
Well, I don't think any, when you talk about live action video today is we actually had a storm overnight, and I really thought literally the command post was going to be like in the Wizard of Oz, and we'd be taken up in a cyclone, and the amount of rain that was hitting our window was just severe. But unless you're a frog or a turtle or you're an amphibian, you may not be too live and active today where we are situated. A little bit cooler. Yesterday was in the 80s. Now I don't even think we're going to reach 55 degrees. So that's springtime in where we are.
Yes, 48 is supposed to be the high today. But we're going to have an amazing guest on tomorrow's show, Sunday, April 8th. She's a lady that's solved crimes on Unsolved Mysteries. She's a spiritual medium, and she's also an author, and you're not going to want to miss tomorrow's show at all. So
yeah, I'm really excited to have Dr. Rebecca Foster on our show. Just kind of thrilled, tickled pink, because like I said, Timothy said, she is a spiritual medium, clairvoyant, author, PhD, and she's also been on Unsolved Mysteries, solving unsolved crimes. So very excited to have a guest of this caliber, so that we'll be able to converse with the two of us on the same type of playing field. So very thrilled. You're not going to want to miss that podcast tomorrow. So very excited over that particular guest. And let's kind of get into, we were going to talk about one of the topics you said you wanted to talk about was bottom feeders, or, they say that somebody that copies you is a very high form of flattery, but it can really go the other way. It's a double-edged sword, so to speak, when we have people that copy every move that you make.
Well, when we give them ideas, like we do something, then they turn around and do something, or if we say something repeatedly on a video and then they want to take that statement and make it into like a title for something that they're doing. I mean, originality would be great. We are who we are, and people attach certain sayings to us and certain taglines to us, but people want to pick up on it and try to take what we're doing. But in reality, just be original and be yourself, and stop copying people.
Be true to yourself, and you're always portraying that you should be a very unique person. I mean, I don't conform to anything that society says. I'm true to myself. I'm going to be me, whether somebody can stomach it or not. And I think if you should really practice what you preach. And you do some people do videos where they say they're going to do this and that, and then they turn around and somebody has a bright idea, instead of being unique and kind of innovative.
They try to copy everything that we do. And, whereas us, we're original, we stay original, and, they say imitation is a form of flattery, but really it's just ripping people off. So
just be yourself. If you can't portray yourself as yourself in anything that you do, then you're being really a hypocrite and a fraud, and it's a very sad state of affairs when you have to do that.
And we have a we have a Facebook group page. We've had it for a couple of years. It's World Paranormal Research Society. And we'd like to invite people who are real individuals and originals, and people who are really into this topic to come join us on there. We have, I think, close to 300 members now?
Close to 300 now, yes. Getting very close to that number. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a place for like-minded people that are the real deal, that can, we post our videos and whatever we're doing on there. So we really don't want people that maybe are sort of bottom feeders, really. I keep focusing or harping on a bottom feeder, but really a bottom feeder is just somebody that picks up the residue or the leftovers from other individuals. make your own leftovers, and don't feed on the
Yeah,
scraps.
don't pick up something somebody else is doing and try to make it look like it's your own when in reality it's not. So, yeah, what we're going to talk about is we had a blog out actually about 3 years ago. There was a blog, and we're probably going to get that back started again. It was attached to the World Paranormal Research Society .org website, but we want to get that back going up, and we'd like to invite people who have unique stories to email us, and let's see if we can't get you on the show, and see how real you are, and let's get you up on the show and talk to you about the stuff. And we've invited a couple of people on the show who we figured out were not real, and were probably afraid that they could not answer the questions that we would have for them. And so they ended up not coming on the show. But
you know, we like to have a huge variety of guests, and from different genres, different walks of life, because I think it really gives everybody a perspective that, you know, everybody is a unique individual, a unique human being on a spiritual journey, and you know, we try and bring topics or guests that may expand your horizons and maybe make you ponder about life a little bit more and ask questions. Never stop asking questions. And you know, when we sort of extend the olive branch to invite guests, and if you don't have time or you refuse, we really are just going to pass you by, because you know, you can...
well, I think the reason they refuse is because if they claim to be something and they know that we have significant knowledge in our field, and we ask a question that they will not be able to answer, that would kind of, you know, I think these people kind of get worried that they're going to be exposed, and but the real people actually show up, and they have no problem answering the questions, and that's great, and that's good.
I mean, for us, let's put it into perspective, folks. This is not a 9-to-5 job for us. This is not a fad. This isn't a hobby for us. This is what we do day in, day out. It is a lifestyle. This is who we are. We're the real deal. We're not fraudsters. We're not pretending to join on this hip gravy train of, you know, everybody's into the paranormal these days. It's hip. You're going to be in the in group. We don't need to be in groups. We are our own selves, and we don't need people to join us. We're just quite happy with being the real deal.
And we're going to stop talking about that topic right now. We're going to move on to something that's been in the news, the Conor McGregor bus incident. What is your take on that?
You know, I was getting into, I'm not a huge fight fan, but I've been watching the fights with you, and we did a couple of days ago watch a very interesting documentary on Conor McGregor that sort of gave me a different perspective, or for a lack of a better word, a different spin on fights. And I mean, he really came from nothing. He was really collecting welfare, and I thought this is a human interest story, because it's somebody that's really fought tooth and nail to make a name for themselves and came from nothing. So I was sort of getting inspired, and I figured, okay, well, you know, this is a neat story. This gentleman from Ireland, you know, I'm Scottish, so that is considered a fellow Celt. But when I seen what happened, what transpired in the last couple of days in regards to the bus incident, I felt very sorry for him, because you know, he was really at the top of, he is at the top of his game, and he took, you know, it was a long, hard-working climb to get to where he was, and I felt that he was just throwing it all away in regards to an individual that was actually a coward in the bus that wouldn't get out of the bus. So I thought that he could have maybe handled it a little bit better, but I mean, I wasn't in his shoes, so I mean, I'm not going to downplay anybody, but I don't think violence begets violence. In that's just my personal opinion.
Well, like you said, he was collecting the equivalent of welfare. He was on like the equivalent of food stamps in Ireland, and then he got the job. Now he's got over $100 million, I know for sure, from the last fight. So
and he's a new father too. He had a son not too long ago, and I thought, you know, that he's living the dream life. But I mean, he worked for it. It's not that he wasn't handed this money on a silver platter. He had to actually work from it, work for it, and crawl from the sewers. So I thought, okay, he deserves that money because he's just not sitting there flapping his mouth. And I just thought, you know, I'm sort of in disarray about how somebody could, you know, on the verge of throwing it all away. And I can only hope that he goes home to Ireland and, you know, he just sort of kind of regroups and gets family support and maybe gets a different perspective on the actions that came.
Well, I think had Khabib got off the bus, I don't think that the bus would have got demolished like that. Khabib was not going to get off that bus. That was obvious.
Well, you know, you were watching things this morning where he was trying to say he was trying to get off the bus, but the evidence is quite clear that he made no attempt to get off of the bus. So, I mean, this guy is a coward. So really, Conor McGregor is going to pay the price for a coward's action. And I mean, the video footage doesn't lie, folks. So, I mean, he's now trying to cover his tracks to make it look like he is not a pussy when he really was a pussy and there was no attempt to get off the bus.
Right.
So I think, I mean, the way I kind of look at it, Conor McGregor really was standing up for a friend, standing his ground for his principles, but I think he just did it maybe in the wrong way, and maybe he should have maybe used caution to the wind and maybe took a moment to think first before he acted. But some people, I mean, you know, in the aid of friend or family, they try and do the right thing and it turns out totally wrong.
Now, for another topic, if you notice the difference on YouTube, where YouTube creators are not putting out videos as frequently as they was, it's because YouTube has been screwing over content creators. One of the kids in Canada that I like to listen to is a guy named Vegan Gains. Although myself, I am not a vegetarian, but I do enjoy listening to he's got some valid points, and I like listening to his videos. But he's really cut back on the amount of videos that he's put out since they started screwing people over financially. And this is somebody who gets a lot of views. Also, I subscribe to Sam's Fitness. They have Lee Priest on there, and he's also cut back on the amount of videos that he puts out. And with Rich being dead, it's kind of like I have nothing on there to watch now, except for now the Conor McGregor stuff's coming out, so that's pretty interesting. But I think Conor was just trying to get that guy off the bus, and he went about it the wrong way, but he felt like he was justified in doing what he was doing. And yeah, there you go.
And I just wanted to put this into perspective. There's been a lot of interesting news in regards to Senator Ted Cruz, the Texas senator. And actually, my Twitter thing has actually been going nuts this morning. I posted in regards to, I mean, I have complete proof and evidence that Senator Ted Cruz is a fraud. He cares nothing for the people of Texas. There was a woman within the last couple of days that was asked him if he was a human being, and Senator Ted Cruz really couldn't answer. Well, I can answer that for you. He is not a human being. But to see my Twitter feed blow up this morning in regards to people trying to say that Senator Ted Cruz stands up and fights for servicemen and women to secure Texas is a complete bogus. But I'm glad that at least what I'm saying is getting attention, because Senator Ted Cruz...
We're not going to go too much into that stuff.
No, but I'm just saying it's interesting, because I thought it was interesting in the news that even Governor Greg Abbott say they fight for Texans when they don't.
They liars. Governor Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, they don't do what they should be doing when evidence is presented to them. We know this firsthand.
And then when somebody calls them out, they're called a troll. But that's just how the government works in the corrupt land of America that I'm finding. So it's been a very interesting day, or days, in the news across America and across the world. And, you know, hoping that all this negativity turns to more positivity, because we've got enough negative things going on in the world, or you really just have to open your front door and you can see negativity all around you in regards to people that are just very unhappy and unfriendly. And
especially in Bryan, Texas, people are just stuck the fuck up, man. If you live in Bryan, Texas, and I'm offending you, good, because I mean, you know, these are some of the most non-friendly people out there. And when they look at us and we got the tattoos and stuff like that, I think they look at us like we were warned about y'all from our mothers, you know, like when they were kids growing up. And I think we're the stereotypical boogeyman for these people.
Well, I guess maybe where their worst nightmares come true or whatever. But that just goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast. Be you, be an individual. That's who I am. I'm an individual. And I mean, I'm not going to not have tattoos because society is going to label me with this false label. I'm going to have tattoos because it's important to me. And I don't care what anybody else has to say. And yeah, I get tired of being judged by people that really don't know me. They see me walking in a door and right away, you must be a biker, you must be a stripper, you must be blah. The list goes on and on and on. And you know what? I'm me, and I'm not going to stop being me for anybody. And if you can't handle me at full throttle, then you better just step off and you know, jump off a cliff.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's going on to a little sports thing here, follows the Masters, but my son Michael is he's working at security at the Masters golf tournament.
Where is that, in case people don't know?
It's in Augusta, Georgia, and it's one of the biggest tournaments of the golf. It's like the Super Bowl for golf, really. And so if you win the green jacket there, you've done a big deal. I remember back in 1997 when Tiger Woods won the green jacket, and you want to talk about some pissed off rednecks. I mean, there was riots outside the gate of the Masters at that time. But right now my son's working security out there, and I find it interesting that since he's been working security, he seems to have a little bit of a snobbish attitude.
Wow.
And I'll say that because I've sent him I don't know how many messages and he hasn't responded. Has he responded to you?
No, but he said he was working very long, almost double shifts. So he's been working his buns off. So maybe, I mean, he probably just has enough time to go home, eat, and crash till he has to get up for his next shift.
Well, so, son, if you're listening to this, yeah, give your dad a call. Or send me a message or something. But, you know, you ain't got to be out there with all the ritzy people and get into that golf crowd of, you know how they are. The sperm donor that they called my dad was a golfer, and he was a golfer on the senior tour, and he was in the newspapers and all that. But man, he's a snob. Bottom line, he's a snob. And
yeah, but I mean, money changes people, and I don't care what anybody says. You know, when you have no money, then all of a sudden you have money, or you've been born into money. You really have a very twisted, not all the people, but you have a very twisted perspective. You become very Scrooge-like, very greedy, and you know, not a lot of people that have wealth spread it around. I mean, if they did truly spread it around, we wouldn't have as many starving people out there. But I mean, I think they come into the mentality that they want to hoard what they have. And let's face it, folks, you can't take it with you. So why don't you do some good while you're still on the planet?
Well, some people, all right, like in Austin, Texas, there's people that hold signs there, right? And I had flyers I was handing out one time for an event that I was doing. And I stopped by the side of the road and I offered a guy, I think I offered him like $60 to go around and hand out flyers and for the whole day, put them on cars and parking lots and stuff like that. And he said he makes more than that holding the sign.
Wow. So you really offered somebody a job.
I offered him a job and he told me the least amount of money he makes a day holding the sign is $90 a day.
Wow, so that's actually a job for him then. So why do actually physical labor when you can stand there and hold a sign? And I'm not knocking people that are truly needy that need that.
But he was on drugs, he was on alcohol, and he was holding a sign close to a liquor store. And I'd actually went into the liquor store one day and I was telling the guy about the story about it. He said, yeah, after that guy gets money, he comes over here and he buys all this liquor and stuff. And so that's how these people are. They're homeless because they choose to be homeless.
And, you know, where I come from, we have that too. And panhandling is such a huge, huge problem in the downtown area where I'm from in Canada that a lot of people actually get attacked. They get hit, and if you don't give these individual money, they actually start being very belligerent to you. They swear, they call you every name in the book. They're asking for money, yet there's a few times where I've offered to buy somebody coffee or a hot sandwich. And the funny thing is that they turned down the offer of the coffee or a hot sandwich because they want the money for cigarettes, booze, or drugs. And I really will not enable somebody.
I think when you're homeless, cigarettes may be a necessity, but alcohol shouldn't be.
And drugs aren't.
So drugs aren't, but I think cigarettes may be, because you got a lot of stress on you, and yeah.
So you're saying people that smoke, the excuse for smoking is you have stress?
And in my case, yes. In my case, yes.
I wish that he would stop smoking, because he actually started during an investigation where
in Somerville, Texas, at the Murray House.
And he's been going strong ever since.
I started at the Haunted Orchard, didn't I?
Yeah, you did,
actually. Yeah, it
actually.
was the Haunted Orchard in Bryan, Texas.
That's actually frightening, and I thought that maybe it would be a fad for him, but he's been going strong ever since. And
I'm trying to stop.
You know what? If I hear this is my wean-off pack one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I've had like 500 wean-off packs so far.
That excuse is kind of going very, very thin. So, you know, we all have our vices. We all have our ways that we try and get through life. And let's face it, folks, life is tough. Life is rough. It's not a bowl of cherries, and it's just not like the scene in Forrest Gump when he sits there with a little box of chocolates and his mother said that life is like a box of chocolates. It really isn't.
Well, I want to talk about, without getting too much into certain situations, I want to talk about the 2 inmates that were found dead in the Travis County jail system. If you read, and it's been big news, kind of like the Conor McGregor story's been big news on a worldwide level. The 2 inmates that's been found dead has been big news in the Texas area. And so they were found dead. One of them was Michael Kors. Is that right? His first name was Michael?
Right, I think, yes.
And then the second guy was Eric Taylor. And so Michael was 50 years old, and I believe Eric Taylor was 24, 27 years old. And in the media, they just reported what the officials have said. They've said they died of natural causes. I find this to be bullshit. There's been a lot of problems within the Travis County jail system in Austin, Texas. There's big stories going on right now in the independent news circuit, but the mainstream media won't pick them up until they're actually dead. It's like, all right, let me put it into perspective for you. When anybody gets arrested and put in jail, they're not guilty of a crime. They're just arrested for the crime. They still have to go to court. Okay? Jason Patrick, the guy that was in the Lost Boys, he was in that Travis County jail. And you know, that was a few years, probably 5 years ago, that he was in, 5-6 years ago, he was in that Travis County jail. And so, with that being said, just because, all right, let's say that your family member gets into an automobile accident and they're hurt, they're critically hurt on the inside, but they're taken to jail. Okay, and they denied medical attention. Now, they haven't been found guilty of nothing, but they end up dying within that jail system because they're not receiving medical care. That is not right, and that happened to a guy a year and a half ago, actually. That happened to a guy, not even that long. I'm thinking about a year ago. He was in an automobile accident. He ended up dying within custody. And so that jail is like the sorriest place ever for medical help or mental health help.
Well, to put it into perspective, highly unlikely that you find a 24-year-old lying on the floor in his cell and he's dying of natural causes. 24 years old. I mean,
in the same day, earlier before that, a 50-year-old that died of natural causes. I mean, these people were, and this was on a Saturday, right?
It was a Saturday, the Easter weekend Saturday.
And on Saturdays, guess what? The doctors are not in the jail. They have no doctor on staff. They only have sorry ass nurses there, and that's why these people have died.
What a coincidence. Like, I mean, I really, you know what, in Canada things are not, you know, a la land either, but geez, America, wake up, please, people.
Well, here's a Canadian story that made worldwide news. Y'all had a guy on the Greyhound bus system that beheaded another guy.
Yes.
And he's out free right now, right?
Actually, this gentleman, he was actually where my parents live in Selkirk, Manitoba. They have a mental institution. It's known for the whole province. He was actually housed in that mental institution, and my mother would see him uptown all the time when she was doing her grocery shopping. She seen this guy walking around free. You're able to
after the beheading. Yeah.
And he actually wanted to eat this individual. And there was a
well, the way that we heard about it on the news, I remember sitting in front of the TV when the news happened at that time. The reason that he beheaded the guy was in front of him, if I'm not mistaken, and was wearing headphones, and the headphones was too loud, and that's why he cut his head off. And then that's the way that I heard about it. But the fact that Canada's laws are so different than America's, that they actually put this guy in a mental institution and gave him passes to go out in town after this happened, and now the guy's completely free. And I'll let you finish telling that story here in a minute. But you know, getting back to Travis County real quick, it is wrong to not have a doctor on staff on a Saturday and Sunday. And these doctors do not want to be bothered. These nurses will not bother them. And these 2 inmates are dead. There has to be a change. Sally Hernandez, a lot of people like you because of the immigration stuff. But when it comes to taking care of the inmates, you fucking suck. And then when it comes to Governor Abbott, you fucking suck. Ted Cruz, you fucking suck.
Well, Governor Abbott, instead of going to India, look after fellow Texans. I mean, I really don't think if you can't look after your own backyard, you shouldn't be flying all over the world trying to secure relations or employment, whatever, with individuals or whatever the trip to India was.
Well, these 3 people are in position. Sally, Greg, and Ted are in position to make changes, but they're just turning a blind eye to it now. They really have dropped the ball on the jail system there. So they need to make a change, make a difference, put a doctor on staff. If somebody's got a medical issue, deal with it. If you don't have enough medical staff there, get more medical staff there. It's pretty hard for me to believe that you don't have enough medical staff there when a medical clinic has so many hours of no patients being in there. So it seems like there's ways that you can get people in emergency situations in there.
And going back to what you said about the beheading on the Greyhound Canada bus, it was actually Tim McLean was actually 22 years old, and he was actually stabbed, beheaded, and cannibalized while on the bus. And Vince Lee was actually found to be not criminally responsible for the murder, and he was then remanded to the high security mental health facility in Selkirk, and he was detained until his release in 2015. So he was found criminally not responsible. And if anybody knows about the high security, really it's not a high security mental facility, because I used to work there in high school for job experience. The mental health facility in Selkirk is almost like One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's how it is. And these inmates, as they call them, mental health inmates, are allowed to roam at large freely during the town of Selkirk, now the city of Selkirk, and they would show up at coffee shops begging for cigarettes. So my mom's seen Vince Lee many times in Selkirk, and I mean, my view is that he worked the system. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he got off free with murder.
One of the things I can appreciate, I disagree with him after beheading somebody on a bus being free, but one of the things that I can appreciate about Canada's judicial system compared to America's judicial system is that they in fact try to rehabilitate people there. And they try to rehabilitate you and then let you go. They don't hold you in and accuse you of being guilty until proven innocent. You have to be proven guilty. And so with America, that's how it used to be in America, but in America now it's changed, so the minute that you're arrested, you're just automatically guilty. The grand jury is nothing but a joke. They do so many indictments on zero evidence. And it's such a corrupt and screwed up system that we have over here that really, if Trump wanted to make America great again, what he should do is look at the way Canada is handling their judicial system and try to set it up like that over here.
But the thing I didn't like on this particular story is that he was a Chinese immigrant, and he worked at various menial jobs at churches and stuff, and the pastor has said that he seemed to be happy but he had a problem with his language barrier. He would become frustrated on not being able to communicate and understand. And I find that to be very flawed, because they offer so many free language courses where you can have a tutor that will help you with the English language. So he had been in Canada long enough. He actually became a Canadian citizen in 2006. And
Canadian citizen.
Yeah, he immigrated, but he had plenty of time to take free classes and get a free tutor in learning the English language. So that excuse does not ride with me. And he actually had a psychiatrist who later examined him to say that he was hospitalized in 2003 after a previous incident with Ontario police. So he had a record with being hospitalized. And free resources, folks, didn't take advantage of it. And not being frustrated with a language really does not. And actually, he was 4 weeks before the killing and the beheading, he was fired from Walmart because he had several disagreements with other employees. So he had, issues in regards to communication. Fix yourself. That's one thing in Canada. There's so many free services for immigrants, yet they make the excuse when they get in trouble. I didn't know the language.
Canada should have never released a guy that beheaded a guy on a bus. He shouldn't be free. However, they do have the mentality to try to rehabilitate people, which is good.
Well, to me, can you really think, let's pose this out to our listeners, do you really think an individual who stabbed, beheaded, and then cannibalized a young man in front of a crowd of people sitting in a Greyhound bus can be rehabilitated? Come on. I don't think so.
I think the people that just sit there and watched, they're pretty sorry ass,
Well, the thing is that there were several police officers that were involved on the scene after that committed suicide because they couldn't handle what they had seen. So they suffered from PTSD, and the cops committed suicide because they couldn't live with themselves in regards to, can you imagine the horrific scene? And it was said too that there was several times that a sharpshooter could have took them out, but they didn't do that. But I mean, we could debate that from here to whenever.
See, had that bus been in America, the cops would have just killed everybody on the bus, and then they would have been acquitted at trial. So it's such radical differences between Canada and America in the judicial system. It's just stupid.
And then we've had all these school gun shootings in America. Every time the last little while, then there was these bomb packages in Austin. I know when I talked to my mother on the phone, they were seeing every day about the packages in Austin. She was wondering if we were okay. She said that on a recent phone call because it was worldwide news in regards to these suspicious packages that turned out to be bombs in Austin, Texas. So the world is really kind of tilted into full speed, full throttle negativity, and I fear what's going to happen.
America, we're becoming so immoral in America, that I can't wait to leave this country, and when I get the ability to leave this country, I'm going to do it. And so I'm just waiting to be able to get my passport and everything squared away, and then get some other stuff squared away, some other legal stuff squared away, and then I want to go to Canada, because America's becoming so immoral now. I remember when I was a veteran, when I was in the military, I joined the military. When you graduated boot camp, they took your recruit hat and they gave you, like for us, I was in the Navy, so they gave us a Navy hat, and they played this song, Proud to Be in America, God Bless the USA, right, by Lee Greenwood. And so I actually cried during that song because I felt pride in being a service member for my country. But now that song does not hold the same meaning that it did back in those days, because this country has become so immoral with the corruption within judicial systems, with the corruption within law enforcement. I think that going back to Sally Hernandez and Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott, the governor, senator, and sheriff, they have the ability to change the judicial system in Travis County, one of the most corrupt judicial systems, and they're not doing it, and that's pretty sorry.
It really is. Like, I mean, when you think of all these people that have, like my husband here, that have served their country with great honor. And in Canada, I mean, we don't see it as prevalent where these mass stories of veterans on the street and getting shit on, treated like dog crap. I guess because Canada is known as a peacekeeping country where we do a lot of peacekeeping work. We're not really on the front lines in the battle, so we don't see the men coming back and becoming casualties for the rest of their lives. Because, I mean,
because y'all not on the front lines, and I'll tell you why. You know, during the global war on terrorism, when we were deploying, we'd deploy with a Japanese ship, which was a joke, because how come the Japanese has a navy, but we have a treaty with them or an agreement with them to protect them ever since World War II ended.
Since Pearl Harbor, is it not?
Since World War II ended, we have an agreement to protect Japan, because Japan still wanted to attack Pearl Harbor, but the agreement was after they surrendered for us to do that. But they have their own navy now. But anytime a ship gets hijacked from them, they don't go recover their own ships. They call up the U.S. to do it. And that's like Trump said, we're their security force, and that needs to change. If they want to do that, then they need to pay us. But I was on many missions where we were recovering hijacked ships. And I always wondered, I said, well, if the Japanese have their own navy, why in the hell are they not recovering their own ships? And so when we were on deployments, two of the countries that you would see leave right before you got to imminent danger pay, the day before imminent danger, it's the Japanese and Canada. Canada would turn around. Now, they followed us all the way into Hawaii, but then when you're going out and you get to almost imminent danger, you see the Canadian Navy leaving. Now, you're not blaming the people that's on the ship for them leaving, because obviously that happens within the higher up of their government making the decision not to send them in. But the people that actually stood and fought was Britain and the U.S. And of course, we made countries in the Middle East fight with us because that's where we were at, right? I was not in the Middle East, actually. I never did time in the Middle East. We had different objectives and different missions, and ours was patrolling the seas and keeping down the hijacking of the commercial ships.
Yeah, I can't even really fathom what people in the military have to go through on a daily basis. And then again, when you come out, there is a lifelong fallout in regards to having to resume and be a part of society. And I think this is going to bring into a topic that many of you out there, I hope, are practicing in meditation. And I think meditation in today's world, with the very hostile topics that we deal with on a daily basis, we may deal with very hostile individuals, hostile workplace. We really got to cut it down, and meditation really is and it has been practiced since antiquity in numerous religious traditions and beliefs. And I really think that we should every single day practice any form of meditation where we focus our mind on a particular body through an activity to achieve a real mental clear and emotional calm state. I think most of us really need to have a part of that into our lives, because let's face it, it is a very hostile environment once you open your front door and step into the real world. And it can be a frightening place for a lot of us. Maybe a lot of us don't even want to go outside. A lot of people may suffer from depression and different kind of social anxiety ailments. I do have a background in mental health, so I'm aware of a lot of the conditions that may prevent people from participating in real life, and they maybe participate in fantasy. Fantasy is okay, but when it becomes to overtake your entire life, you're becoming in severe peril. And that's where a lot of people may cling to the paranormal. I mean, there's so many paranormal shows out there that they begin to think, wow, I wish I could be a ghost hunter. I wish I could fight demons.
No, you don't really, because here's the thing. Going back, I've been doing it for 10 years. You've been doing it for 30. But going back, if I had to do it over again, I'd never get into the paranormal world. And I'll tell you why. Because I feel like I feel like this destroyed me. playing with demons, and I wasn't playing with demons. I guess I was playing with demons, but playing with demons can definitely affect your life.
It can turn your whole world upside down, topsy-turvy, and if you don't have the strength, whether it be mental strength, physical strength, you're going to be in a whole world of hurt, and a lot of people turn to suicide.
And like I was saying, though, if I could go back again and I would never get into it. But now that I'm into it, I know more than the average person just starting out, so it'd be hard for me not to help people that are suffering from demonic infestation or possession or attachments. It's I know enough to help people, so it's harder for me to walk away now, even though I have a hatred for doing it, because it takes so much out of you when you're dealing with the real things.
Right, and I mean, a lot of us that have a gift, I have a gift, and we feel obligated, we feel compelled to help people, because that's why we are put on this planet, is to help people. And there is a cost. For every action there is a reaction, and if you can't if you're not prepared, meditation is a form of preparing yourself as well, and doing saging, smudging, and if you're not preparing yourself with psychic armor, again, you're setting yourself into a world of hurt. And what we do is we do it because we're trying to help people. That's the bottom line.
And what I want to say is, I feel like there's something still wrong with me in my spiritual way, because I'm not really allergic to garlic, but garlic makes me sick. Salt lamps make me sick. And sage makes me sick. And these are things that we use in our world.
I mean, to me, sage and smudging that's what I'm all about. I mean, I was brought up into a culture that used smudging techniques. We gather our own sage, we dry our own sage, and we burn our sage. And I'm a firm believer in sage. There's also sage incense out there for you, those of you that don't have access to picking sage. And let's face it, sage bundles out there can be expensive, and if you can't afford it, there's the cheaper variation of burning sage incense. And I had picked up some because different companies, I like to see what the strength of the actual sage is in the incense, and I'm a huge fan of burning incense and when I'm doing my spiritual magical work. And Timothy actually got sicker than a dog, so I figured, okay, well, can't burn sage when he's around. And I also use incense cones as well. I have a dragon's blood. They sell different kind of incense cones. So I'm a firm believer in using these in my spiritual tool kit, my tickle trunk of tools. But I know that, we do use sage that has been dried as well. I'm actually waiting for a batch of sage to dry so we can do a smudging again. And Timothy does get sick, but it is something out there that people have to be aware that this is not a TV show. It's not an episode of Ghost Adventures or whatever it is, your favorite paranormal show, Supernatural. This is the real deal. And if you're not mentally and physically prepared, you are going to end up in a world where you have no way of getting out. And like I said,
well, the Ghost Adventures are a real deal, but let me tell you how the production companies run Zach and them. Okay, because we've been doing it long enough that when we go to locations, we're not scared or startled or nothing like that, because we're used to it. Zach is the same way, but the producers require them to look scared, and so you'll notice them on every episode. They'll say, "What? Ooh, what?" Make all these noises and facial expressions and look shocked. But that's an act. In reality, they're not shocked. They're used to it.
But, and I feel for that because, like I said, we've had 2 companies approach us in regards to doing TV shows and pilots. And, the first TV show Timothy turned down because we find it very, very hard to conform and not be really, again, at the beginning of our podcast, true to ourselves and portray ourselves on who we really are. And we certainly are not going to make up evidence or hype up a little piece of evidence, because if you look at our videos on World Paranormal Research Society, we have the best evidence out there, and we're not going to fake it. If we catch no evidence, we catch no evidence. We're going to tell you that, but we're not going to make up stuff just to make people scared. We're not going to put on these silly facial expressions so people can see that we're scared. You know, we struggle with having to do that, and that's why I think one of the reasons that Timothy turned that particular show down is that we couldn't be who we really are on screen. And you'll notice even in our podcasts and our videos, they are unscripted, and we just talk off the cuff. This is the real deal.
See,
this is who we are.
The television producers are noticing these things. That's why they contacted us. We're not the most popular ghost hunting team, but we are one of the best when it comes to evidence.
It's not all about popularity. It's about what you're catching. And I mean, a lot of these spiritual entities are attracted to us where we're currently located now. We have maybe a minimum of 20 spiritual energies that are around us. There's some times where I can't even sleep at night because I figure that's playtime for them. Timothy, you know, we all get in different moods. Sometimes a depression will come over me, and I'm not really a depressive person, but you know, sometimes when you're in a weakened mental or physical state, that's when these spirits will attach themselves more strongly to you and play these games where you're in a down mood and humdrum and all that. So you really know when you're being played with.
Yes, you do. And so what I'd like to say is, what's up with the Incredible Hulk? I seen the Incredible Hulk the other day on TV from 2008, and it's the first time I've seen it. And they're using this animated thing now. Why can't they just get the big dude to be the Incredible Hulk?
I don't know. Well, look, remember we went to go see a movie, and you were talking about the animated Spider-Man that you said for kids, and I wasn't really. It's coming out, I think, December 2018. I mean, Spider-Man, I mean, I'm not for these animated films. I think, you know, get a guy to play Spider-Man, Superman, or Batman, wherever it is. I mean, that's what people want to see, and I guess they're now trying to appeal to the younger audience in regards to the superheroes again.
Yeah, but you can just find a big dude to play the Hulk. There's a lot of big dudes out there that are in a Mr. Olympia, and they could play the Hulk. Like Lou Ferrigno was a competitor, and he played the Hulk. But growing up, my favorite comic book hero growing up was always Spider-Man. But, you know, the way they made him look in the films and stuff like that, I've definitely now taken back from Spider-Man. And now I'd say my favorite, I like Superman. I've always liked Superman. But now my favorite would be the Hulk. But I just wish that they would find some huge dude to play him, you know.
Yeah, but another thing about how, you know, I think maybe we were spoiled growing up because, you know, we had the Bionic Woman, we had a Wonder Woman, we had all these characters that we grew up with, and we thought, you know, they were actually presented very well on the screen, because I've been after you asking you if you wanted to see the new Wonder Woman movie, and you said you didn't want to. I mean, Linda Carter, I think.
Linda Carter had the tits for Wonder Woman, okay? When you look at the new Wonder Woman, they minus the tits. Not only that, she's not a beautiful woman. A lot of people say, oh man, she's a beautiful woman. She's really not. Wonder Woman is supposed to be from this Amazonian tribe, Amazon women or whatever. It's supposed to be, you know, a beautiful woman. Linda Carter was not beautiful, but nobody recognized it because nobody was looking at her damn face back in the television show. But this woman, I have no desire in seeing it.
So, you know, that's just another example of, you know, how they, you know, back in the day, these shows, TV shows, movies were awesome, and then they keep making remake after remake, and they really spoil it because, you know, we grew up with a vision on what we thought these characters should be, and then, you know, you do so many retakes or remakes after a while. I mean, leave things alone. When something is done perfect or something is done well, stop wanting to redo it and replay it, because all you're doing is just butchering the perspective on what a lot of us grew up on. I mean, we grew up on a lot of things that we thought were superheroes, and now, like I said, they've just been shot all to hell with the remakes. And people are going to probably say, no, I like the new Wonder Woman. Okay, that's fine, but I mean, you weren't around.
What about the damn Aquaman, who's not a blonde-haired dude? I mean, that's shit too. If you look at Aquaman, he's blonde-haired. The reason why, most surfers at the time was blonde-haired.
So they just kind of capitalized on that vision on what it should be. So, again...
Don't get me wrong, I like the actor that plays him, but I don't like him as Aquaman.
Well, what about, I mean, the same can be said even about remaking horror movies. Sometimes the original horror movies are good, and then they do a remake, and then it's all shot to hell where everybody's just like, what the frick is this shit?
There's no reason Robert Englund couldn't have redid Freddy Krueger. The new guy, I don't like. Jason Voorhees, they've got so many damn different people to play him. I think Derek Myers was probably the best one. But
it's just like, you're just like a recipe for a cake or something. You keep adding different ingredients, it's going to turn to shit. So I think when you have a good combination of things, if you can't get the original actors, then don't do a remake, because you're going to spoil it and you're going to shoot the story all to hell. And this all comes back to what we're originally talking about in the podcast. Be true to yourself. Don't be a replica. Don't copy people.
Don't copy what we say. Like if we say on the table, and then somebody says, well, I'm going to name my video series On the Table. I mean, come on, man. If that's attached to us, that's attached to us. You know what I'm saying? That's just an example. That's just something I just said.
Be genuine. Don't be a copycat. Please don't be a bottom feeder. Be an original edition of yourself. Be unique. Be true to yourself, because you only get one go at this life. Don't spend your whole life trying to be somebody other than yourself.
If you have creativity and you're real and you want to be true to yourself, then guess what? Be true to yourself. Come up with your own shit.
So I think, we've brought a lot of topics to the forefront in this podcast.
Let's talk about what it is to be a clairvoyant. Clairvoyancy.
Well, I mean, clairvoyance has really different, mediums and stuff. There's people out there that are true mediums, and there's people out there that are fraudulent. But
and our guest tomorrow is a true medium. Our guest tomorrow, Dr. Rebecca Foster, is a true medium, and with her, it's going to be great to have her on the show. Somebody who's real, and somebody who's not afraid to do an interview.
And then there's one, I just did a search on what the word clairvoyant means, and I really have a problem with this particular, and that's why we always stress, search out several sources. And this says a clairvoyant is a person who claims, bollocks, to have a supernatural ability to perceive events in the future or beyond normal sensory contact. I mean, the other words that they use for a clairvoyant is a psychic, fortune teller, crystal gazer. So I really have a problem with that. And again, they're saying that a clairvoyant is alleged ability. I really have a problem with them using who claims and alleged ability to gain information about an object, person, location, or physical event. And that's even from Wikipedia. Like, who in the hell are you to say claim to or alleged? These are people that have really no idea. And clairvoyance comes from the French clair, which means clear, and voyance, which means vision. So it's from the French meaning a clear vision.
But let's clarify some stuff for people out there for a minute. Just because somebody's a clairvoyant or a medium doesn't mean that they can work on cue. So it don't mean that you can walk up and challenge them and say, hey, what about this? It doesn't work like that.
I've had, and I'm going to call them for what they are, is complete idiots and have no clue. They'll come up to me and say, well, how come you couldn't say this? How come I had one person say, how come you couldn't give me a message from my mother? We don't work on demand. It's not like...
But you've given a lot of people messages from their dead relatives.
I have, because their dead relatives have presented themselves to me. Not because I've had... It's not dial-up psychic, dial-up medium where you can just, program your TV and I'm going to watch this today. It does not, in the real world, work like that, folks. If I get a message, it's because this individual wanted me to give a message to an individual. I cannot call spirits on command or demand. It doesn't work like that.
And the lady that's going to be on tomorrow, she takes customers, and she's real. So that's the thing to recognize. She's real. She can help you. She'll be at your service. So, Dr. Rebecca Foster.
I'm very
you're not going to want to miss tomorrow's show.
And again, she does give. We're going to talk more about her in tomorrow's podcast, but you are not going to want to miss it. And I'm going to throw this out there, and I may get slammed down from Timothy, but if you have a particular question you would like to ask her, very limited, you can send us an email and we can ask her the question during the podcast. I don't want too many people emailing, but now's your opportunity if you have a specific question about what she does.
Email us at World Paranormal Research Society at gmail.com if you have a question for Dr. Rebecca Foster. And we'll try to get your question fitted into the show.
So we hope that, again, this podcast has, treaded territories that maybe you've been hearing in social media. Ask questions, but please, folks, be a genuine first edition of yourself. You are the only person that can be you. It's nice to emulate people out there, whether it's your favorite star, but please, when it comes down to it, be you.
Yeah, be you, and if you're somebody who does a certain thing, like, okay, so let's say that you do a certain thing, why would you let somebody that you just got with start taking over your thing? Which happens with a lot of people. Like, a lot of people get like live shows going on, or they get things going on, and they don't seem to click on camera. And so it'll go from one person to the other one, and you're like, okay, so people are listening to this one person, but now the other one's got their face in there, and they don't click. Whereas me and you would click as far as like the podcasts and videos and stuff like that. So it's never been an issue. But,
and I think I'm going to put this out there too. I think I'm really, truly, truly blessed to find somebody that I can truly be myself with, and we can communicate on the same spiritual, paranormal wavelength, and one is not going to downplay what the other one does or make fun of it or not believe it, because we both are working in the spiritual realm, and it is a lifestyle, not a hobby, folks. That's the difference.
Yeah, and check out our Etsy store. I know for the people out there that are copying the things that we're doing, I know y'all probably going to jump up there and open your Etsy store too. But
macabre,
but we
needful
got
things.
But we got the real shit, and it's macabre, needful things. Check out our stuff. And that's it for me for today. Check out tomorrow's show for sure. Dr. Rebecca Foster. That's all I got.
Take care.